Hello everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. Today we're going to be making a homemade deluxe quiche. It's made on a flaky pie crust and it's loaded with flavor. So let's get right to making the recipe. And you can make it with or without the crust, but I think the crust sets it off nicely. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to start with that. So I start by adding about 4 cups of all-purpose flour to the mixing bowl. Then I add 2 teaspoons of salt and 1 pound of lard. Then mix that in using the dough hook on your mixer. You to mix it until it looks like this. And as you can see, it looks like it's already formed a dough, but we're not done yet. Now then, crack a large egg into a 1 cup measuring cup. Add 1 tablespoon of vinegar and fill the cup up with cold water to the 1 cup mark. Mix this together really well using a fork and then pour that into your dough mixture. Now we don't want to overmix it at this point, so just mix it a little bit and stop and add another 1.5 cups of flour. Mix it only until it's well combined, just enough to make the dough form. And it's a good idea to stop it and not allow the mixer to do it much more. Take it out of the bowl, put it over onto a floured surface if you need to, and knead it a little bit with a little bit of more flour, and go careful at how much flour you're using because you want this to be a little bit tacky like this. Because the secret to a nice flaky pie crust is to not use too much flour. You only use just enough to do the job. So when you go to roll it out, you're going to be adding a little bit more flour, of course. So you need to allow room for that. So this recipe will make enough for several pies or tarts if you want. So whatever's left over, just put in the fridge and it'll keep for up to 2 weeks. So at this point we just take enough out to roll out our pie crust for today, enough to make a 9-inch round pie. So we take out a 9-inch pie plate, we fold the dough over in half and place it into the pie plate, press it down in the middle and around the sides and pinch up the edges, and then trim off the excess dough. And you know this is pretty easy to make, and there's nothing like a homemade pie crust. So alright, let's do the filling that will complete our quiche. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees. You're going to need lots of eggs. So crack open 7 large eggs and place them in a large mixing bowl. Whisk them together until they're really well incorporated. Add 3/4 cup of heavy cream. And whisk that together a little bit. Add about 3/4 teaspoon of salt and about 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. Then add 1/4 cup of finely chopped red bell pepper. Then mix that in so it spreads evenly throughout the mixture. And set that aside while we prepare the rest of the ingredients. Here I'm using some cooked ham and I'm cutting it into small cubes. Here we have some cooked bacon, and that needs to be crumpled into smaller pieces if you're using that. I like ham in mine, and some of the others like bacon. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do half and half in the same pie. So you can do that too, or you can do the whole thing with one or the other. It's up to you. So here I place 1/2 cup of the bacon on half the pie, and 1/2 cup of the ham on the other half. Next, we'll need some broccoli. So I just take a knife and shave off a little bit on the top of the broccoli. I don't use the stem, I just use a little bit of the top. And we'll need about 1/3 of a cup of the broccoli and just sprinkle it over the top of the meat entirely. Next, we'll need 1/3 of a cup of chopped sweet onion. Now sprinkle about a cup of shredded mild cheddar cheese. Make sure your egg mixture is mixed really well again, and pour it over the top nice and evenly. Alright, so this is looking pretty good. Then one last thing before placing it in the oven. Top it off with about another 1/2 cup of mild shredded cheddar cheese. Then place it in a preheated oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit and put it on the middle rack. You can set your timer for about 45 minutes to check on it, but it likely will take between 45 and 50 to 55 minutes to cook through. You'll know it's done when it's nice and brown on top and the center appears to be set. You can use a tester and it should come out reasonably clean, but it will still be a tiny bit moist, so when you first take it out of the oven, let it sit for about 10 minutes before cutting it and serving it. So you can cut it in as many pieces as you'd like, usually about 6 or 8. So let's just go ahead and dish out a piece and see what that looks like inside. There you have it. Not so bad. Nice and set. Now I like my quiche on a nice flaky pie crust like this, but if you're a person that can't have the gluten, you could do it without the pie crust and it would set just as nicely. And of course I showed you how you can do one pie and make it into 2 different types of meat in the same pie, but you can do one or the other, or you could even put small breakfast sausage in it if you wanted to, but either way you start out with cooked meat. And the reason for putting the meat on the pie crust to start with is so that each piece will get an evenly distributed amount of it. So this turned out quite well, right? And this is typically a breakfast food, but you can have that for lunch if you wanted to. It's quite nutritious. It's quite tasty too. Thanks so much for watching today's episode, and until next time, happy eating!